Like that's just it. Media or die. I
Our
told you
mission
about
here is to
help improve this business. The business is a car repair business, and it's called Landyzone. Landy for Land Rover, so it's Land Rover Zone. Now, we have to take a couple of things into account when we are redeveloping this brand in general. We have to take into account where they are right now, what they're doing, where they're coming from, and where they're going. So, where does the brand come from, or where does this business come from, right? So, the guy running the business used to work for Land Rover and then branched out to work on his own. So he's very good at working with these three car types or three car brands: Land Rovers, Range Rovers, and Jaguars. Typical Land Rover clients go to him, when they can't go to the actual Land Rover dealership for repairs. Anyone who can afford a Land Rover, a Range Rover, or a Jaguar, it's within a certain income bracket, and that income bracket is not down there. It's kind of middle class to upper class, right? And people in that income bracket are used to brands that, in general, tend to be very simple in the way they present themselves, and they're simple for a reason, because simpler brands are easier to remember. Simpler brands are easier to, when it comes to a logo, for example, it's easier to use, and etc. There are many rules around that. So the first very evident thing is that we're going to have to design something that's simple, something that feels luxurious. We want his potential clients to be able to come to the workshop and drop their cars and feel that, look, this guy is worth what he's saying, and I trust that this person can do what they say they're doing just by looking at the brand, right? The brand being the collection of everything that creates an impression around this business. One of those things is the color that the business uses as primary color or secondary color, the whole color palette, and also the logo. When it comes to the color, we decided to use green. Green for two reasons. First of all, he is currently using green, so it wouldn't be too, it's easier for us to present the new brand using that color to the existing clients. The second reason why we're using green is because the Land Rover also uses green. So we're going to try to reference Land Rover in the design of this logo. Yeah, you should be able to feel a certain continuity in the quality of service, continuity in the overall look and feel. Yeah. So to do that, we're going to use Land Rover as our reference. And so the first thing we did, or the first thing I did, was to try to pull up as much images I could on Land Rovers. And I started with the wheel. I went straight to the wheel. I was trying to look for something that is common to most Land Rover cars that I could potentially use to develop this logo. So I started with the wheel, and I looked at the shape of the wheel, the angles in the wheel, and I was like, okay, can we use this star, for example? Is it something a typical Land Rover user would remember or would feel familiar with? And the thing is, before answering these questions, it's always important to sketch it anyway. You don't know if what you're sketching is going to work. Sometimes you find the answer only after you started sketching. So we did the first sketch, and we get something like this. And so I decided, look, I don't think there's anything here, so I'm not going to go ahead with that. But if I felt like there could be something in here, then I would have gone through a process of simplification so that the new or the final logo still has the essence of this. But I decided not to go ahead with this idea. So the wheel was not going to work. Next question. I tried to figure out what kind of Land Rovers tend to be quite popular in South Africa. I had a look at various Land Rover workshops, and for some reason I saw a lot of Defenders in many of them. It could be coincidental that the ones that I saw were Defenders. And so I looked at the Defender, and the thing that jumped straight at me was the light here. So I decided to draw that and see if I can pull something out of this, and it didn't work either. And I'm going to show you the drawing in a minute. So the next thing I looked at was, hey, can I look at what else really stands out when you look at a Range Rover or Land Rover? And it was the grille, this grille right here. So I looked at the grille and decided to simplify the grille, and I'll show you what that gives. So you remember the light on the Defender was something like that. If you simplify, you could get these. I didn't want to go ahead with that because I could tell nothing's going to come of that. And then when you look at the grille, you'll notice that the grille is made up of this structure replicated multiple times. So I could isolate this alone and make and use that as the company's icon. That's possible, but I didn't. This is another possibility that's the same as that. You have that possibility, with the Land Rover badge in the middle. Again, I can't write Land Rover because we're just trying to reference the brand, not recreate that exact same brand. Yeah. So none of these worked for me. Then I decided to go with what the business does, which is car repair. So that's a spanner, and within the spanner we have a negative space there with a car. We could have gone in that direction. I just chose not to, although that could have worked. And here we have, again, using negative space, we have a Land Rover in the middle with a circle, the green referencing the top of the Land Rover badge. That too could potentially work, mostly because circular logos tend to be very easy to use in terms of applications, but we didn't go with that. And then the next question was, okay, what if we step back from the car, step away from the grille, step away from everything? If you're standing at a distance, how do you know that the car you're looking at is a Land Rover? And there's a general outline to most Land Rovers today. The roof tends to go in that direction, slightly upward. Sorry, I think it's the opposite direction, but whatever. On the side of the car, you have this descending line. The baseline is straight. At the back, you have something slightly going this direction. And here, there, and finally, something that closes here. So this is not very precise, but you get to something that looks somewhat like that. This could be converted into two boxes, simply box 1, box 2, make them both green, and it could easily become an icon, very, very easily. But I decided not to go there either. So the question is, if I can't do it stepping away from the car, what if I step into the car and I look at the design language inside the car? And that's what we did. And I'll show you what that gives. Yeah, so two things stand out to me in the pictures. The first one is the introduction of smooth angles or smooth curves. And I'll show you, there's a student that did a research on this, and I like what he did, and I'll show you his research. But in addition to the smooth angles like this curve, or the smooth curves like I'm calling them, you see right here, there's also the paneling of different pieces to form an item, right? The coming together of different parts. What I love about the coming together of different parts is that even when you think about the guy's business, right, putting parts apart together to be able to fix them, you have that concept again of parts coming together, of parts coming apart. I'll show you the guy's research, and this is it here. So here he starts with a research on the evolution of the interiors of the car's interior. That wheel, like I said, when I mention smooth angles, these are the angles I'm talking about, and you're going to see more of them in here. So these smooth angles, and like I said, the paneling of items. So this, for example, could have been one single item. It is one single item, but it's been cut into two pieces, like two panels coming together to form one. I had in the previous example, or the previous window that I opened, which was this one, you saw the same thing happening here. You can see the same thing happening in, let me open various pictures. Here on the seat, you're going to see that the angles I mentioned, I had another picture quite relevant up here. I think it's this one. Yeah, that paneling again, these smooth angles, And let's go back to his research. I like his drawings better, they're cleaner. Yeah. So when you look at this, the question, or looking at this, I came up with a question, which was, what if we design a letter L that did the same thing, that used panels, so pieces coming together to form an L, and which also used that those smooth angles. And I'm going to show you what we have, what came from that attempt. And so there are those iterations, right? Where's my pen? There. Okay. So we have various possibilities there. Again, various possibilities. And we ended up here with the two simpler possibilities. This is the simplest, and then we also have this. The final icon we're going to design, or the final icon we decided to design, is close to this, but it's not exactly that. I had to delete this internal line because I wanted it to be even simpler. Yeah, so that's what we ended up going with. When you look at this and you look at that on my screen there, let me put them together close to each other. There is a clear similarity, right? Let's see if you can see it this way. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to go back to my screen because I want to show you what that becomes. So that's what we had, remember? And then when you lose this internal line, you get that. And we went through the process of developing the shape, progressively adding some thickness to that stroke, and ending up with our final icon. So that's what you get. And remember the green, we said we're going to go with green for the various reasons we mentioned. We're not yet done with the color development. That's just the primary color. We're going to have a secondary color. And when you have a logo, a good logo, it's usually very easy to use it in other applications. I'll show you an example. We can use a logo as a pattern behind that or anything else. I could nest an image within this panel. I could nest an image in this panel or in the negative spaces. You can do all that. Yeah. And a good logo is easy to remember. It's you can recognize it in one look, and that's what we tried to go for. Yeah. So when you look at that, there's an automotive feel, definitely. There's the concept of panels, which can come together or come apart, and the whole coming together to form what we want, which is RL. Just like your Land Rover or your car would be a collection of parts coming together. Yeah. So that's what we have. That's how we came about.
I love that statement, a collection of parts coming together. I think that is an excellent piece of content.
Yeah, and in the development of this, when you look at the typeface, for example, why do we have this typeface? We wanted a typeface that was strong, and that's because we had a look at the brands we're trying to reference: Land Rover, Range Rover, and the other one. Pretty strong typefaces. That's why we went with that. But why specifically this one? I can't remember the name of the font, but I remember that this is a sans font. Sans as in no, a non-serif font. We had a look at other car brands, and we saw what type of typefaces were used in general, and quite a few used the sans version of a primary font or a principal font family. So that's what we decided to do. Go with a font family that has a serif version and a sans version, and we narrowed down the sans versions. For example, PT Sans, I think it's used by, can't remember the name of the brand. This typeface here is used by Aston Martin, but we weren't going to go with it because it's not strong enough. We need something very strong because Range Rover doesn't have contrast in the arms or the branches of each letter. I'm calling them arms, like this is thick, this is thin. Range Rover doesn't do that, so we weren't going to go with this. We chose this one because of its tapered look, and that tapered look happens to coincide with, let me see if I can open this again. This is one of his competitors. Yeah, when you look at the Range Rover writing and the Jaguar writing, they're both tapered, which is wide and not very tall. But also they're pretty open. There's some space, enough space between the letters. I'm speaking in layman terms, but there's a technical term for it. There's enough space between the letters, yeah. And so that's exactly what we ended up with, with that typeface. Now, the next step is we have to develop a color or a whole color palette. And we are considering having a metallic version of this typeface. We're not yet sure for now if we should even have a metallic version. For now, I'm sticking with black and white or dark gray and white for the typeface. And yeah. And so for the color, the question is, what secondary color can we use? Now, we want this brand to stand out, like really stand out, but it has to stand out within a luxury environment. So I'm already thinking of two possibilities. I'm thinking of amaranth. Amaranth is a marriage between pink and orange. It's very, let's see if I can show you what amaranth is like. And this would not be, that's amaranth. So if you look at it next to that green, you can tell that they work together. They work pretty well, you know. So occasionally you're going to have this amaranth in use, but the green is going to be primary. Yeah. And so once all that is done, we're going to prepare a document to present the brand to. The document is going to include pieces like you would see here. I'm going to show you an example. Yeah, this brand. So look at the way it's presented, and it will give you an idea of what we're about to do now. So you have the normal logo, the typeface is going to be presented, the color is going to be presented. That's before and after, just like we also have a before and an after. Quite often the spanner is used in mechanic brands. We could have gone with a spanner too, like I showed you, but I just wanted to stay away from it. But notice how simple this is. They always have to be simple because you have to remember them in one look. Yeah. So we are going to develop a website that's just theirs. That's the logo's construction. We can present our construction as well because the angles we chose are not haphazard. The logo, when a logo is simple, a good logo should be able to be used in various formats, right? This is a vertical format, horizontal, and an icon. We're going to produce all that for the client, but we're also going to produce some social media templates. These are theirs. We're going to have ours. You have some stationery here. We're also going to produce some stationery. These are letterheads, business cards, envelopes. Again, social media for those. And some examples of use within their app. And we want the staff at this mechanic workshop to have branded equipment. So this is an example. We're going to produce those for our client as well. There's more examples. Notice how the shield here as brand element is used on a t-shirt. In our case, I showed you how we had almost the same concept using the logo to create a pattern. That's possible. With a shitty brand, you won't be able to do that with a shitty logo. Yeah. So those are all physical collaterals, and we will have physical collaterals as well. Yeah. So that's how we developed the logo. Yeah.